In this video, I'm going to show you the exact system that I use to scale e-commerce brands from around £20,000 a month up to 100k a month without the founder becoming the bottleneck. It's the same system that I use to scale my own e-commerce brand up to £1.5 million, and it's now the same system that I've installed into other founders doing a combined £250,000 a month. Now, that's a bold claim to make. I know I can hear you thinking, how can I say that I can get from 20 to 100k a month with e-commerce brands with a repeatable framework? And if you're watching now, there's probably two questions that are going through your head to work out whether or not I'll be able to teach you something in this video today. Firstly, you're asking yourself, how do I know if this operating system actually works? And secondly, you're asking, how does it actually work? How does it actually systemize an e-commerce business? Well, the first thing to say is I can say that I put this system in place, I'm showing you now on screen, across multiple brands, and they've gone on to become completely founder-led rather than being founder-dependent. And secondly, I'm going to show you exactly how it works by working it through in the video today, step by step. So by the end of the video, you'll know exactly how to operationalize your e-commerce business so you can scale it without you being the bottleneck as the founder. So let's get into this core idea. Everything I'm about to explain to you today sits on top of these two systems. We've got the revenue system on the left-hand side, and we've got your fulfillment system on the right-hand side. And these two systems show us exactly, firstly with the revenue system, how do we get customers? How do customers happen? That's what this revenue system dictates. And secondly, with the fulfillment system, it tells us how do we actually deliver the value that we promise to our customers. So you think of everything on the left-hand side, this revenue system is a way to visualize everything that happens before the purchase. And on the right-hand side, this fulfillment system is everything that happens after the purchase to deliver on the value that our customers have bought into. Now, the point of this diagram is that we're going to visualize how a business works, because your business is a system. Whether you know it or not, whether you have it documented or not, whether you visualize it like this before, your business is a series of tasks all put together that take a customer from the point of being aware all the way through to having handed over and had a product delivered, all the way through to the post-purchase support. And your business takes your customers through that journey, whether you're aware of it or not. So by having these systems, we can visualize, first of all, how the business operates. So let me just walk you through exactly how this revenue system would look for an e-commerce business that has a retail physical in-store shop as well. So we look at this across 5 different stages of a customer journey, and there's a column for each of these stages. So we start out in the awareness phase and how we make our customers aware of our products. They then go to engagement, then they show their intent, then they'll convert, and then we hand over to the fulfillment phase. So in the retail sense, if you have a retail in-person shop, then your awareness would be footfall, the shop window, or the word of mouth about the retail store. That then feeds into people in the engagement phase when they actually are in-store browsing and they're engaging with staff conversations. Then we know they're showing intent when they're actually asking questions about the products in store, or they're holding an item and they're showing intent to buy. Then we go to the conversion system, which is they make the sale with the point of sale system that you've got in your store. And then we hand over the next phase over to the fulfillment system. Now, if you're running an e-commerce business, it will still go through those same 5 stages of the customer journey. But initially, your awareness might look something like this. You have 4 different routes that people find out about your online business. Your organic social content that you're posting. Maybe you've done some work around SEO, so there's Google search organic content. Maybe there's some word of mouth that your customers are spreading around about you. And then maybe you've got some paid ads running across Meta and Google. These are the 4 things that are the current way we set up with one of the brands that I'm working with. But you may have different channels that you also get people into your funnel using. Then you go into the engagement phase by getting people onto the site. Maybe they sign up to your email marketing. Then you bring them back to the next phase of intent, which is to get them to look at a product page. Then they add to cart, check out, and place their order. And then the handover phase for e-commerce is when we hand over to fulfillment. So what we've done here, and it's a super helpful exercise for you to do, is that we've mapped out how does your business operate? How do we get people in at the front door? And how do we take them all the way through to the fulfillment system at the end of it? Now, the second part of the system is the fulfillment system. And again, for an e-commerce or you have a physical store, it will look something like this. So initially, this all ties into fulfillment is how do you purchase your stock? How do you get access to stock? That's the inventory acquisition part of this stage. For an e-commerce brand that holds stock, initially it'd be purchasing that stock, making sure it's logged accurately. And then you need to go through a phase of making sure that inventory is actually made available to your customers. So via e-commerce, you'd need to list it on Shopify. Then order fulfillment is the next phase, and this is how we pack and dispatch our orders, or if we are drop shipping, we'd instruct our suppliers to dispatch. Then the order is completed, And after the order completed, the final part of the fulfillment system is your post-purchase support. So how are you helping customers that get in touch after they purchase? So the first thing to do with your business is to package it into these two systems. We've got the revenue system pre-purchase and the fulfillment side after the purchase. With this now, we have visualized the way that our business generates customers and delivers the value to those customers. Now, I see brands stalling when they get to 20 or 30k a month because they haven't got a clear handle on the customer journey or the systems that their business uses to generate sales. Oftentimes, it's still in your head and you have an idea about how each of these systems work, but if all been kept up here, or maybe you've got a few processes written down, but it's not been visualized, it's not been put into a diagram of how it works from start to finish. That might be okay when you're making 20k a month, but if you want to scale and you're doing 50k or 100k a month worth of orders, suddenly things start to look chaotic. And it's very difficult to bring team members on board if you don't have clear systems and a clear diagram to show them and visualize how the business runs. So now let me walk you through, once we've got these systems in place, how do I scale e-commerce brands using them? There's 6 phases, and the first phase is initially visibility. Just by visibly seeing how your business operates, by putting your business into these systems, it immediately shows us how we make customers aware of us and how we deliver on that value. And straight away, that gives us clarity to know, okay, how is our business actually set up to operate right now, and what should be happening, and what's the difference between what should be happening and what's actually happening. This part alone initially removes a lot of mental load and a lot of weight on the shoulders of a founder, because ultimately you can't fix something that you can't see. Step 2 now is to document the decisions along this customer journey. So if you think about each of these points, each of these things that happen along the customer journey, there is an individual process for how that happens within each of these points. So step 2 is to actually document the decisions around each of these processes. So we set out the step-by-step SOPs for each of these, how these processes work, and we document how the decisions are made so that we're not founder dependent on the founder making these decisions. So initially it's about documenting, it's about getting clear on what happens in all different type of scenarios as we go through the flow. Step 3 is to now optimize this flow. Because once we've now got a visible diagram and we can document how the business operates, we can start to see how we can optimize. For example, if we can see that clearly there's a bottleneck by how quickly we can make our inventory available to customers because we're not listing our products online fast enough in order to get them in front of the customers where there's clearly demand, then we can see we need to optimize this part of the flow because this is a bottleneck operationally. And so we can start to optimize this. Because this is just a blank canvas, initially getting the diagram or paper, we can decide, okay, well, we need to increase the throughput of how many products get listed online. Therefore, we're going to hire another product lister, or we're going to hire a virtual assistant to list products for us. And so we can increase and optimize this whole flow to make sure that it's properly managed. Also for the revenue system, for example, if you know that you are generating a lot of your traffic from organic social content, and they're the highest quality of website visitors that make it through to viewing a product page, then we're going to double down on the system to get more organic social content down. But because we visualized it, we can start to document it and then optimize as step 3 to make sure that we're actually optimizing where the business is going to get the biggest leverage. Now, step 4, once we've started to optimize this whole system and it's working in the way that we need this business to work in order to get to 100k a month of scale, is now to assign metrics and targets to each of these processes along the journey. So think about each of these yellow kind of sticky notes. They all represent a target for a part of the process. And it's up to us, and it's up to me when I work with brands, to set a target for how we want to be approaching each of these areas. And then we can clearly see how are we performing against the targets all the way along the business. What this allows us to do is we start to see, okay, where are we missing the target along this customer journey? And so that's where our focus should be put most in order to optimize that part of the business. Then step 5 is all about ownership. And ownership is where we put somebody else other than the founder in charge of each area of the business. Again, because we've got these diagrams, we can start to assign each of the different processes to somebody who's responsible for that area of the business. And so they can then become responsible for hitting the targets that we've set from the previous step. So your job as a founder is to wait for your team to pull together and report on the areas of the business that they own. And then we can then decide where our allocation of resources and time and energy and effort could be spent in order to improve which part of the business. Step 6 is then all about optimizing because of the reporting. So the reporting happens on a weekly basis. We get into a rhythm of reporting on each area of the business. Each area of the business is clearly defined how we do it. We've optimized it. We've got somebody who's in charge of it. We know how to measure it. And suddenly your job as a founder is just about collecting information and making proper decisions as a founder would to push the business in the right direction. Now, the way this enables 100K months is because you as the founder have suddenly got your time back, because you've documented the processes that were previously in your head. We've got people in place to run the systems of the business, and we know where to put the focus on. And so you think about how much more growth you'll build as a business owner when your time is spent thinking about growing the business rather than just running it day to day. So this is now how I view growth of an e-commerce brand. And it's the way you could view it for your business as well. Think about those 6 stages. We initially visualize, we then document, we then optimize, we then measure, we then give ownership, and then we report on each of those areas. And suddenly we've got a firm handle on how a business grows, and the founder is not depended on for any of those operations within the business. They can be responsible for the direction of the business as the founder of the company. And this is where it gets super exciting. We can get to that scale, we can grow the business, but we also get a lot more fulfillment for the people in the team because they've got clarity about what they're working on, and the founder themselves is working on the things that make the biggest impact and that they are best at and that they enjoy the most. With that said, I hope you've enjoyed seeing how I scale brands from 20 to 100K a month. If you are an e-commerce brand owner and you're doing 20K a month, then it'd be great to chat. If you would like me to help you put these systems into place for your brand, then feel free to book a call with a link in the description. But with that said, I just hope you got value out of the video today, and I'll catch you in the next one.